Welcome to the Real History 101. Today we're counting down the 5 most important moments of the Cold War, a period of intense geopolitical rivalry. The United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers with very different visions for the future, were locked in a global chess match that lasted for almost half a century. Within this overarching tension, there were specific moments that brought the world closer to the brink or nudged it back from the abyss. So buckle up, grab your thinking caps, and let's get started. And our first stop takes us to the divided city of Berlin, a microcosm of the larger Cold War struggle. Picture this, it's 1948. Germany and Berlin itself are divided between the victorious Allied powers. The problem? Berlin, though located deep within the Soviet-controlled zone, is also split, with the western part controlled by the US, France, and the UK. The Soviets decide to cut off all land access to West Berlin, essentially holding its 2 million residents hostage. What followed was the Berlin airlift. For over a year, the US and its allies airlifted a staggering 2.3 million tons of supplies to the blockaded city. The Soviets eventually lifted the blockade, but the message was clear. The West would not be bullied. The Berlin airlift became a symbol of Western resolve and a testament to the lengths they would go to contain the spread of communism. Fast forward to 1962, and things get real. That was the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviets, led by Nikita Khrushchev, decided to secretly place nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. President John F. Kennedy had to act, but how? A full-scale invasion of Cuba could trigger a nuclear response from Moscow. The U.S. Navy imposed a naval blockade on Cuba, turning away Soviet ships carrying more missiles. For a few heart-stopping days, it seemed like all-out nuclear war was inevitable. Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba, in exchange for a U.S. promise not to invade the island, and a secret agreement to remove U.S. missiles from Turkey. The crisis was averted, but it was a stark reminder of the terrifying stakes of the Cold War. Chapter 3, Vietnam, a quagmire in Southeast Asia, 1965. What began as a local conflict between communist North Vietnam and U.S.-backed South Vietnam escalated dramatically in 1965, with the U.S. sending in combat troops. The Vietnam War exposed the limits of American power and the deep divisions within American society. The U.S. withdrawal from Vietnam in 1973 signaled a shift in the global balance of power and a growing awareness of the limits of military intervention. Chapter 4. The Berlin Wall Falls. A Crack in the Iron Curtain, 1989. For almost 3 decades, the Berlin Wall stood as a potent symbol of Cold War division. In 1989, the seemingly impenetrable wall began to crumble from the sheer force of people demanding freedom and democracy. On November 9, 1989, East German officials opened the Berlin Wall. The fall of the Berlin Wall marked the symbolic end of the Cold War, signaling the collapse of communist regimes across Eastern Europe. Chapter 5. The INF Treaty, A Step Towards Disarmament, 1987. In 1987, U.S. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev signed a treaty that eliminated an entire class of nuclear weapons. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty mandated the destruction of thousands of ground-launched nuclear and conventional missiles. The INF Treaty included unprecedented verification measures, allowing inspectors from both sides to verify compliance. It represented a turning point, a shift from confrontation to cooperation, paving the way for further arms control agreements. These 5 moments, from the tense skies above Berlin to the negotiating tables of Washington, defined the Cold War era and continue to shape our world today. They remind us of the fragility of peace, the ever-present threat of nuclear annihilation, and the importance of diplomacy. So, what do you think? Which event was the most impactful? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more history-packed content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.